You're listening to KEXP. You can find us at 90.3 FM in the Seattle area, streaming round the world at kexp.org, and also streaming on our free mobile apps. And we appreciate all of the listeners who support this listener-powered music resource. You can find out more about us at kexp.org. Feel free to make a gift anytime in support of listener-powered discovery. And we are so happy about the day we discovered this next artist from Chicago. It's Kara Jackson joining us live in studio today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you here. And a beautiful new album, Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love? It's Kara Jackson live on KEXP.
I could have told him about the morning, the daylight always dawning. I could have told him that he'd be resting on my mind. He stays on my mind. He stays on my mind. I could have told him about another time, another place, maybe later on. Gonna love you better, baby, right, wrong, already. Right, wrong, already. Right, wrong, already. Stays on my mind. I could have told him about a man who pays his own dues for his own price and is home before his own woman. Right, wrong, already. Right, wrong, already. He stays on my mind. I could have told him about the morning, the love light always dawning. I could have told him that he'd be resting on my mind. He stays on my mind. If he's right, wrong, already, he stays on my mind. Right, wrong, already, he stays on my mind. He stays on my mind. He stays on my mind. He stays, he stays, he stays on my mind. He stays, 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 he stays.
So beautiful. It's Kara Jackson live on KEXP.
hard to have patience when you're waiting on luck. Like a postal truck, like a postal truck, to bring you a love as tough as elephant tusk. No chance of rust, no chance of rust. When searching for a reason he could only find one, he said, "You're just no fun, you're just no fun." And if seeing you naked wasn't such a bargain, it would be a home run, it would be a home run. I think I'm taken for granted. Every person that I've dated tells me I'm intimidating, like a snake that's busy praying. I wanna be as dangerous as a dancing dragon, or a steam engine, a loaded gun. Be love for my hazard and a will to destruct. And isn't that just love? A will to destruct. Isn't that just love? When you're no fun, isn't that just love?
Absolutely beautiful. We're live here in the studios with Kara Jackson, KEXP.
When you become somebody's bandit and their heart becomes your loot, what kind of player does that make you? Breaking your hearts and selling them too. You picked me in a pawn shop, I was used but good as new, shiny as a tattoo, but permanent as party balloons. morning. This is why I'm always broken. You never end up showing. I'm not a liquidated asset. I'm sharper than a jewel. What kind of mind does that make you? When I'm the gold and you're just a fool. You're just a fool.
One of my favorites from the album, Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love? It's Kara Jackson live on KEXP. Got one more?
Yeah, just one more. The rolling credits in my mind make me so aware of time. I have so many hours to waste. Calling your brain down from space. Sleep isn't cheap, and your love is no currency. Sleep, you gotta tell me you're ready, so I can sleep already. If your fear is what comes first, you'll run from love you deserve. I've got so much fear inside. You'll give me yours and I'll give you mine. Sleep isn't cheap, and your love is no currency. You've gotta tell me you're ready, so I can dream already.
Absolutely beautiful. It's Kara Jackson live here in the KEXP studios. Thank you so much for that gorgeous set.
Thank you so much for having me.
I just absolutely love this record. I mentioned that Pawnshop's one of my favorite songs, but really only because it was the first song I heard from you, which made me go, what the F? Who is this? And set me on a deep dive into the songs on this record, and I couldn't just pick one favorite. They're all so gorgeous, as people can hear by the songs you just performed. But just thank you so much, and congratulations on such a beautiful record.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with the iconic Cheryl.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I read that you discovered poetry in high school and that you immersed yourself into the form completely, but you were named the Youth National Poet Laureate when you were only 19, only the third person to achieve that, which is wonderful. But it sounds like you always knew that you wanted to sing songs. And can you tell me a little bit about growing up and the role that music played in your life and how you made your way to poetry and back and forth between music?
Yeah, I've always really been attracted to music that is, like, I guess cerebral, and I love lyrics. I grew up on like Jim Croce and Joni Mitchell and people like that, and my dad is a huge jazz connoisseur and he loves, all the classics. So I feel like I grew up on a really perfect foundation to just love music. I think my parents were always playing some type of good music around us, and so I have always really loved to sing and to write songs. But when I was in high school, my freshman year, I joined my spoken word club at my high school, and I kind of just got like ushered into this like world of poetry, and it became an outlet for me. I think everybody when they're a teenager is like really angsty, and you have a lot of feelings, and for me poetry became a way to really like articulate myself, and like it was a way of kind of demonstrating and like figuring out the autonomy that I have, over myself and to articulate my life. And so I really found it freeing and like liberating as a teenager to kind of just like let my feelings out there. And I kind of started to make commentary on political things and just this world around me. But I really have always been a musician first, and I started off writing, so it was kind of weird trying to like make the transition back to music because so many people had already kind of seen me as a poet. And I'm lucky to have been mentored by Jamila Woods, who also holds this duality of poetry and music. And so I feel like I had to lean on her in terms of like kind of navigating those two worlds and trying to like get the respect as a musician in Chicago, because so many people had kind of been like, that's the poetry girl. But it's really cool to be back doing music and to just do what I love, because I always knew that I wanted to be a musician.
Well, you mentioned Jamila, and I know that you worked on this record with Sen Morimoto and Kaina and Namdi, who also are on the record. In fact, you called yourself co-producers. And
Yeah.
before we came on air, we were just talking about, you said, I'm so lucky to live in Chicago with all this talent. And you really jam-packed this record with talent. Can you talk about working with those three incredible artists, many of whom we've had here on the air at KEXP? We're so lucky.
Yeah, I really feel like I have lucked out in terms of who my friends are, and since I was a teenager, I've just been around people who have really believed in me even before I believed in myself, and I really consider Kaina to be like one of my biggest cheerleaders in terms of just getting me to like push myself and put out music. I put out an EP a few years ago before my debut album, and it was really because Kaina and Sen were like, you need to put these songs out. I didn't really know what I was going to do with them, and so when it was time to make my album, it was like 2021, and I had had some of these songs written, but we were all in the house and no one was leaving their rooms really, and Kaina and I were kind of texting. It was like at the top of the new year, and we were like, we've just been sitting around in the house like for a year. We need to do music, So we kind of made like a pact, because she was working on her sophomore album, which is another amazing album. But I had some of these songs for the debut album, and I just didn't know what I was going to do with them. But we like made a pact together to finish our projects and just kind of like flesh out whatever we were working on. And that's really when I sat down in my bedroom and just kind of cranked out like all the demos for all 13 songs that would become the album. And when I showed it to them, I was kind of just excited. I had all these songs, and I was like, I'm going to put this album out this year. And so I showed Sen and Kaina, and they were like, this is like a lot. Like, we're really going to have to like work on these songs. And, like, it's going to take time. And it really became like, I feel like 2 years of just meeting up together and really organically like going through each song and like fleshing them out production wise. I recorded like my vocals and my guitar with Namdi, and we just had like those as like our foundation, the clean slate, and then we just each week like we'd meet up with our masks on and like just kind of pick a song, and we just would work on it for all like the whole day, and then meet up the next week until we did all the songs. And it was a really fun and just amazing process with them, and it really gave me something to do during a time where I think everybody was kind of figuring out what they were doing with themselves.
Yeah, it was a very challenging time for many people. It's so wonderful that you had that outlet and were be able to work with friends. And it was a joyful time for people, but also a time with a lot of grief and hardship. And I know that you've said that the name of the album, Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love, speaks about grief. And I know you've experienced it in your own personal life, but do you feel like that time of isolation and grief that people experienced during the pandemic, fed into this record at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's one of those things where I think the stars kind of aligned. Like, I had written the title track that became the title of the album really years ago, before I even knew I was going to make an album. And it kind of felt like one of those things that, we were living in a moment, just everyone collectively, where grief was really at the forefront. Like, we were watching the death toll like rise and stuff. And so I think for me, I've always loved music that felt like it reflected the time. And I think like putting the album out, it did feel really timely in terms of just contending with what everyone is really feeling, in this like anxiety and just living through this weird time that's really still continuing. I think we're just constantly in unprecedented and weird times. And so I feel like it has been an illuminating experience for me to have the album out and to see the different ways that people connect with my own personal stories and narratives. I think that's why I love music and poetry, the way that you can kind of present your own story, and that can be what someone needs to kind of feel represented themselves, and their own experiences can be represented in something that feels so specific to you. But just by sharing it, you're kind of like creating this like bond with people that you've never met, and it's a really great feeling.
And folk music in particular does that, as well as serves as political commentary, which, as you've said, you do in your poetry and music. I love how influenced you are by some beautiful folk musics from the past. I think, was that a Karen Dalton tune?
Yeah.
I know that she's been an influence for so many of the greatest folk musicians. I know Bob Dylan says it's his favorite musician of all time. And I think is that from the album It's So Hard to Tell Who's Going to Love You the Best? So interesting that you have similar album titles.
Really
and that
long
one
album titles.
going back to 1969. But thank you for sharing that beautiful song.
Yeah, I really love Karen Dalton so much. I love that album, and it just, for me, has like changed my life.
Well, I think that your album is going to do just that for so many people, and it's just such a privilege to have you here today performing these songs. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have Kara Jackson live here in the KEXP studios. We want to thank our viewers and listeners for making sessions like this possible. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get notification every time we launch a new video. And once again, a big thank you to Kara Jackson.
Thank you.
We're live on KEXP Seattle.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.